Doug's just a normal guy, still has his own, but he doesn't know why. Now the writing's on the wall. It's time he left the past, gonna listen to his first podcast. We know he's gonna have a ball. Interview celebrities, politics and all comedy. We'll make him listen to it all. Now here's Doug.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Podiverse, welcome once again to another episode of Making Doug Listen to Podcasts, the show that's part critical podcast review and part making my brother-in-law Doug do stuff. I am joined, as always, by the sexiest crew, and they insist I say that I'm part of it. So if I go to the guy at my left, who is
Brandon, 33% of that sexiest podcast crew.
Right, 33.3333%.
Repeating, baby!
That's right. Don't make me do pi to 12 digits to the right of the decimal. And, of course, I'm also joined by the eponymous
Doug.
Hey, Doug. How you doing, buddy?
I am doing excellent.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
What do you
Yes.
think the ratio is? Because you said it's part long-form experiment, part critical review. What do you think the ratio is for you in your mind?
That's actually a great question. I then probably, to be fair, I'm going to have to include a third segment, which is bullshit nonsense.
Sure.
That's about 68%.
At least 68%.
Yeah, that gives us, if I'm doing my math right, about 32% to play with.
Correct.
And well, at the end of the show, let's revisit this question and see, of that 32%, what percent was making Doug do stuff, which may means during this episode, you and I have to step up our making Doug do stuff.
Oh, that's
quotient.
fair.
Yeah.
Now, do you think, so you're saying that 68% is a solid, cannot be moved bullshit amount?
Yeah, I'm super solid on that.
Okay.
If we record an episode and I feel later it was not 68% grade A horseshit
Nonsense malarkey.
Right, exactly.
Then
And
we're going to up it. We'll pump it in post.
Right. Oh yeah. I put it.
Yeah.
We get it all in their post. But
Hell
one way
yeah.
or the other, by the time it hits the ears of consumers, it's in there.
Hell yeah.
Boys, as you know, we bit off quite a bit this week. We got a lot of melon to thump, as they might say in New Hampshire, because we listened to 8 episodes of a
Yes.
show, which is something we rarely do. If you're a new listener, we usually choose 2 episodes of a given podcast, try to give ourselves a flavor of what that podcast has to offer, and enough of a taste that we can give a meaningful criticism. But guys, this was season 1 of a narrative, so we had to listen to all of it. That is Blackout. We will get to it, but first we're gonna check in, Brandon. What did you listen to this week, my boy?
So this week I really enjoyed listening to the Dax Shepard podcast. I've been listening to more of the Dax Shepard Armchair Expert.
Right.
I just find him really interesting.
Okay.
He asks good at questions. And I think that he is an important voice in the interview space
Right.
because he's the only one. I am now, we talked about this last week, I am completely convinced that there's a bunch of celebrities flooding podcasts
Right.
because of the fact that they can make some money. Like we talked about with Jude
Sure.
the Obscure podcast with Michael Ian
Right,
Black.
but let's be clear to our listeners. You didn't feel that Michael Ian Black is choosing
No.
an obscure Victorian novel, but that he, in the first episode, talks about the fact that, like, an agent was like, look, just invite your friends on, talk to them, and you'll make money.
Exactly.
And it seems like, I think it was the Justin
Long was
podcast,
kind of
right.
the evidence for me. And now that I'm looking at all these other podcasts of all these different famous people that are
Right.
being put out, and I'm just like, oh, this all feels like nonsense. Or like, cash in
Sure.
opportunities for all these people.
And we have asked this question before. Every time we stumble upon another well-known, we'll say kind of a nationally known or internationally, people like Alec Baldwin, known name,
Right.
who has a podcast that doesn't have a very specific slant. It's just, I know a lot of people in the industry, and I'm Alec Baldwin. If I want to talk to someone, they will,
Right.
odds are they're going to show up eventually and
And
talk to me.
I'll be able to have 5 ad breaks built
Right.
into my show. I mean, like when we listened to and reviewed the Ron Burgundy podcast, I mean, that show had 8 ads per show.
It
I mean,
did.
it's a lot of ads. And
But
so-
at least it's original content. Whether
Right.
you loved it or hated it, they were trying to create something as opposed to yet another interview talk show.
Like I listened to the other one I listened to, and this reminded me of that was the Ron Funches podcast, which was not. He's a comedian, and I didn't like the show very much, mainly because he's kind of annoying.
I was going to say, were you a fan of his? Are you a fan of his?
I've watched
There's no
him
possible
on-
way you watched Undateable because no one in this country watched.
No.
Undateable.
But I did. he's been a guest on other podcasts, like video game podcasts, and I've enjoyed his content. But when it's just him talking, I find it very grating.
And this is a interview, my friends type of show as well. I actually
only got like 15 minutes into it. I'm not even sure what the show's about.
Okay. It may just be him talking.
It mostly was just him
Conceivably?
talking. Okay. The other podcast that I listened to this week that I want to pump up is a show called Crime Town, and they're in their second season. The first season was about a town in Providence, Rhode Island, that was sort of the center of organized crime in the 1960s and 70s.
Yeah. I remember you talking about that one.
And the first season was really great. They moved into their second season, which is about in Detroit in the 1970s and 80s. There was a contingency of cops that would go out in plain clothes to make themselves targets for robbers, and they ended up killing 10 people in like the first 6 months of the operation, and nine of them were black people.
Of course.
And so it's this show about this kind of looking back at this Detroit seemingly abuse of power and using the voices of the people that were involved in the time, the cops and the criminals and the people who knew the people who died as a part of these sting operations.
So they pick a dirty town per season, basically.
It seems like that's the case. It's sort of a crime town,
right?
Quite literally. And then the last thing I listened to was We're Alive. After listening to this, I thought, I'm going to try out another long form narrative. And We're Alive is a zombie apocalypse long-form narrative show, and I really enjoyed that.
Okay, do me a favor. Hold on any more detail on that, because
we can talk about it during the review of
my
Blackouts.
checking in was absolutely that as well. I wanted to compare this for a variety of reasons we'll get into. Compare this week's podcast to what else is
other
out
established.
There. Right. Particularly, I wanted one that was very high production value.
Right.
Not necessarily well-known folks, even though there's multiple names you'd know. Nothing as big as an award winner like a Remi Malek.
Right. He won a damn Oscar, John.
Yeah, well, we're going to get into that.
He won a damn Oscar.
We're going to get into a
Oscar winner, Remi Malek.
Malek trivia-based game. So don't show your hand too early.
Oh, shit.
Don't show your hand too early.
I didn't know there was a trivia game.
Brandon, you're stepping all over question 7 right now. Fuck. You shut your mouth. I worked very hard on this game. You shut your mouth.
We'll edit it out from Doug's brain.
Okay.
He won't remember by the time we get to the end.
Well,
unless he already knew it, and then we're screwed.
Exactly. You can never tell with Doug.
You never tell with
Doug. Look at him sitting there quietly right now.
His little smile, his little smirk.
So, Doug, I'm also foregoing my check-in because my checking in was just this other podcast that I listened to. We'll talk about it. What did you check out this week?
So this week I finished up season 2 of Wolverine.
Oh, cool. Overall feelings?
Enjoyed it very much. I would say probably about the same amount as the season 1. I don't know if you recall, but like I said, in season 1, though, Wolverine as a character was barely in it.
Right.
And this episode, season 2 was definitely a Wolverine story.
Okay.
So it was very good. I enjoyed it. Looked forward to it each week to the new episode. And other than that, what? I went back to. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank now. To Beautiful and Anonymous.
Okay.
Oh, no kidding.
Beautiful and Anonymous people. Yeah.
Yeah, because I really enjoyed it, so I thought I would just start at the beginning.
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Since we listened to episode 1 is
Ron Paul's baby.
Right. So I just started there, episode 2, and just listened to a couple episodes. I had a kind of a busy week in general, so I didn't listen to a lot of podcasts per se. I was just kind of doing other things.
Right.
I mean, now that you've dipped your toes into the Beautiful Anonymous pool again, last week's episode, do you feel differently about it? Was there a show that really jumped out or an episode that jumped out to you?
No, I thought, it was interesting, though. I think it's episode 3 or 4, really early on, which I think was kind of interesting, where they really did break the rule of anonymous.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And it was by the caller's choice.
Right.
And it was it was a pretty interesting story. As a voiceover actress who moved out here from like the Midwest, something like that, so had been homeless, living in her car, that type of thing.
Wow.
And then turned to
a classic Jewel story.
A very Jewel story.
Classic
She wasn't up in
story.
Alaska, was she?
She wasn't. But now did Jewel also become a cam girl? Because
you know
this
what?
girl did.
Yeah, Jewel actually was the first cam girl. The problem was that nobody wanted to buy the tape. She would just take them down to the local
Well, it was a Kodak
Blockbuster.
Instamatic because this was the late 80s.
Yeah, so it was very tough for her to get online since it didn't really exist other than like Al Gore's basement.
Right.
But
Al Gore,
he did watch.
Right?
Yeah, he was way into it. That's why he and Tipper broke up. So sad. Oh.
Allegedly.
Right now, all the millennial listeners are going, A, who's Jewel? B, who's Al Gore?
Right.
I can't really modernize it. I don't know who else has lived in their car. He's also become a famous Chris Pratt, maybe, but he was a cam girl as well.
Yeah.
So,
but also highly unsuccessful.
Very
unsuccessful.
But anyway, so
yes.
it was interesting. It was
before he got hot. So
right? Exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
now he'd kill.
Yeah. Okay, not to get off on a tangent, but if you ever get the chance to hear Chris Pratt's story about his first headshots,
yes,
it is well worth like searching it out.
Where will we? Okay,
I was going to say where.
It's got to be
find
on
him
there
in the
somewhere.
street.
Yes, if you can.
Hey, Chris,
invite him over.
Chris, tell me a story about your first headshot.
This is LA. You might run into Chris Pratt
You know what?
somewhere.
It's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so because she was a struggling actress who had just started her own podcast with like a group, they decided, by her choice, he said, if you want to plug it, he said, it's, we'll break the rules and try and support you. And they did. And they gave out her Twitter or something,
Sure,
this was
some way for people to
2016,
find
I
her.
guess. I think it was the first season of that show, right?
Right.
So it was ways back, but it was interesting.
You didn't check to see if it was still active? You
What?
didn't subscribe to her cam or anything like that?
Well, I don't have Twitter.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes it tougher,
So
I suppose.
I didn't check on it. No.
You know what? Maybe we'll never know. It's behind the
may
paywall
not.
for me, so I can't listen to them.
I was going to remind our listeners these early episodes that Doug is referring to of Chris Gethard's Beautiful Anonymous are behind a paywall, but you've got Stitcher Premium, so you're able to check them out.
Oh,
right?
so fancy.
Yeah.
Oh, and Doug's just throwing his cash
I know,
around
right?
at this point.
The other thing I wanted to say, I did see a film called Booksmart that I really, really enjoyed. I mean, by the time this comes out, it'll be a little while after.
And
it's
I
been in
saw
the
it
theater.
as well this
Did you see?
weekend.
Oh, we'll have to talk about it
I saw it on
off the pod.
Saturday. Yes.
I really like it.
But we both give it a big old thumbs up,
Hell
correct?
yeah.
All right. Guys, we have checked in. It's happened.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
We need a lot of time.
That was a pretty quick check-in for us.
Here's the thing: is that 68% is going to be bullshit, as we know.
Right.
But we need to make sure that 30%. I mean, we listened to 8 episodes of the other podcast, so I think there's going to be a lot to talk about. Hopefully,
We did
a
well.
robust discussion.
Guys,
Let's
cinch
find
up
out.
your belts. Let's find out.
I'm not wearing a belt.
Now, we have a problem. Brandon, please, leave.
Oh,
This
I
is
just want
for
to pull my
belts
pants down.
only.
I should take my pants off.
Oh, that's fine.
Or I could put an electrical cord and just wrap around.
You could. Or you could take your pants off. I'll get you a belt.
Ooh.
You'll wrap it around your neck.
Yeah, and then
And you'll die due to autoerotic asphyxiation during the show. It may bump our ratings up.
listen, I think it'd be good
I did see
podcasting.
2-star review. Would have given more stars, except one of the hosts died via autoerotic asphyxiation.
But not in a sexy
I
way.
didn't like the language they used or the death by autoerotic asphyxiation.
Especially if my
I'm
mom
not a fan
listens.
of the show's liberal agenda.
Wait. If we know that that's what's happening, do you think your dad still tunes out?
Oh, I mean, I haven't checked in with my dad to see if he's still listening. Probably not. Although I was listening to Deli Boys, which I think is a very good podcast.
Well, I
and
mean, you do tell us every week, one way or the other, about Deli Boys.
all of their family has essentially stopped listening to their podcast.
Really?
Because every show they start with a
Because-
phone call to their moms or grandmas or
Okay.
brothers or sisters. And just like all the moms and grandmas and dads are like, it's too tough to listen to it. I can't seem to get it on my device. So at least my mom's got a leg up on those people's
Sure,
moms.
she does. Even though I think your mom has fallen way behind.
It's fine.
She hasn't talked to me about the podcast
It's
in a
probably
while.
for the best.
Yeah.
I wonder if.
Yeah, the quality has been declining. Good point, Brandon.
And my mom doesn't want to listen to me talk about autoerotic asphyxiation and my death by it.
To be fair, it was really me talking about
It
your
was.
death by autoerotic asphyxiation. Sorry, Ann.
I'm wondering if Mama Lita listens.
Is this even a possibility? Mama Lita being your mother, of
Yes,
course.
my beautiful little mommy.
Yeah, we all love Grandma Lita.
We do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I know I told her about it, but
Right.
Don't cry for me, Mama Lita. The truth is the podcast is not for you.
Oh, is that from the musical Mama Lita?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
As written by, oh shoot, what's his name? Lord Farquaad.
Andrew-
No, what is his name?
Andrew Lloyd Webber.
That's right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Guys, hey, that's going right into that 68% bullshit. Yeah, who knows whose parents listen? But I do want to say to both of you something that seemed important about 5 minutes ago when it occurred to me, and I can't remember now. So while I try to remember that, guys, let's just jump into it. This week, I know what I was going to say. In honor, I'm going to do this, guys. Look what I'm doing.
Yes.
In honor of Blackout, I'm turning the lights down here because, of course, we're about to talk about the...
John?
Yeah.
Now that you dropped the lights, can I get that belt, please?
Yeah. Yes.